I'm Beth Perrell with Gina Burko-Solomon. She's Executive Director of the Adult Literacy League. You can find them online at adultliteracyleague.org. I saw a piece that you did in the Orlando Sentinel talking about your work and your need for help from the community. So let's get that help. First, tell us what the Adult Literacy League does.
Yeah, we in 2018 celebrated our 50th anniversary of providing adult literacy services to our Central Florida community, our friends and neighbors here in Orange, Osceola, and Seminole counties who are wanting to learn to read and write, or our new neighbors who are coming to us from different countries who are wanting to learn to speak English. We help adults prepare for things like the GED test. And we also have a family literacy program that puts books and training and materials into the hands of at-need families and maybe at-risk families in Central Florida with children between the ages of 0 and 5, getting to make sure that parents are engaged and involved in getting their children ready for school success.
And you are a volunteer agency primarily, matching up volunteers with those people who want to learn to read?
Yes, ma'am. We train volunteers to serve as one-to-one tutors, and many of our volunteers actually teach small classes and not so small classes. We are serving on a weekly basis around 1,500 or so adults, and we have around 300 active instructional volunteers serving in those ways, either working one-on-one with students as tutors or teaching classes. We offer more than 60 classes in the Tri-County area. The majority of them are English conversation classes, citizenship type classes, and so they're teaching those classes. But it's all instruction is happening by grace of our very dedicated and generous volunteers.
Wow, let's back up to what you said. 1,500 a week?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, we're serving. We do a lot with a little. We're a small staff of around 7 full and part-timers. And like I said, we serve the Tri-County area. Of the 1,500 or so adults that we serve every week, around 80% of them are learning to speak English or become proficient in English, so they can do things like get a job or communicate with their child's teacher or, fill out a form at the hospital, those kinds of things. So 80% or so learning to speak English, and then the others are, for a multitude of reasons, learning to read and write, had trouble in school, didn't have access to school, didn't have success in school, a multitude of reasons. So
I do know that your statistics there have evolved over the years, right?
Mm-hmm.
The 20% to the 80%. That's changed a lot.
Absolutely. I started as a volunteer in 1999 and worked with what we call an ABE student, or Adult Basic Education student, so someone who is a native speaker of English but had trouble in school, and so we were, learning to read and write. I was helping her learn to read and write, and then fast forward several years, and in 2005 I was invited to join the staff in a programmatic role, and the agency was starting to really change at that time, seeing more and more English language learning students, and that was what my background was in ESOL, in English for speakers, English as a second language, or English for speakers of other languages. So we developed that program in 2005 officially, and it's just really taken off.
As you mentioned, these reasons to improve one's learning or to learn to read and write, it impacts the jobs you can get. We kind of think of that right away, but it's those little things of being able to go to the doctor and fill out that form you mentioned, or, get that driver's license. All of those everyday life things are so dependent upon if one can make their way through all of that, including nowadays, can you go online to fill out that form?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It was really interesting. A couple of weeks ago, we had our family literacy assistant who's not used to working with our adult learners. We were a little short-staffed, and we sent her to do some assessments for one of our classes full of English language learning students. And so she sat with the class, and she administered the assessment, and then she helped us out by scoring the assessment. And she came back, and she said, Gina, this is really alarming. Around 50% of these students would take the wrong amount of medication because they couldn't read the label. The assessment that she was administering was for English language learning students, and it has really practical skills that it's testing within the test. And it had, a picture of a medicine bottle with the instructions from the doctor, and she said, I just can't even think about, the impact it has on every aspect of life, health and financial sustainability for families and everything.
Wow, that's a meaningful example right there. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about your current situation. And I know you have a special funding effort underway right now, a GoFundMe campaign, 60,000 in 60 days. Tell us about your need.
We do. We've had a challenging few months, 6 months or so. Some grants that we had come to rely on for many years didn't hit, as happens, and our special event, while fun and well attended, maybe wasn't as we had hoped successful funding-wise. So we found ourselves really in need, and we put together a committee of some really connected volunteers, PR and communications people, former board, major donors, and we thought that we would take advantage of the following that we have on social media, and our friends and volunteers and our students really are driving this campaign. If you check it out, it's GoFundMe.com and /support ALL, and you can see some videos that our students have made that we've put together of our students talking about what the Adult Literacy League is to them. So our hope is really to get awareness and support and get the community behind us to continue so we can continue to serve for another 50 years.
I have to ask you to share with us what the money is spent on, because I think a lot of times people want to know that the donated money goes to an institution or an organization, it's being used effectively, and surely you are doing that. And also, we can't really envision what your needs are. I mean, I envision, of course, maybe keeping the lights on, but tell us how you use the money. Absolutely. Well, all of our instruction is provided by volunteers. So sometimes we get that question, not sometimes, quite often we get that question, but volunteers are providing the instruction. But, when you're reliant on grant funding, you have to be able to provide, data to your funders. And so, we have a database that tracks all of our student assessment information, and as they progress through curriculum and our post-tests and do things like earn GEDs, we need a place to house that data. We need people, we need staff to be able to process that data. We have an office where we process all of our students who are interested in the one-to-one tutoring program come through our office, and they're assessed using a series of different standardized tools. So there are materials, books, and curriculum that we have to purchase for our tutors and students to use. And just the building itself, our family literacy program is so incredibly important. It puts books and materials in the hands of families who might not otherwise have books. They're coming from other countries, and they've brought 2 suitcases with them, and the family's collection of books didn't make it, or they're living in poverty, and food is a priority over, books and educational materials for the children. So those materials are costly, valuable and costly, but so our staff, while lean and mean and efficient, our staff costs money. So it takes quite a bit to run the show, but we're efficient and lean and as
we're great stewards of community, the support that our community puts into our organization. I think if you check us out, we have a reviewed profile on the Central Florida Foundation's website, which means that our financials are reviewed and audited annually, and we're respected and just good stewards of the support that we receive.
Yeah, good. And I wanted you to share that, because now I'm going to ask you to share with us how we can donate to the Adult Literacy League.
Yeah. Well, I should mention first and foremost, we always need volunteer tutors. So if you're interested in serving as a one-to-one tutor, or as maybe teaching a small class, experienced or not, doesn't matter. We provide training, we provide mentoring, we provide support and professional education and professional development. So we would love to have you as a volunteer. Our website is www.adultliteracyleague.org. And if you go to our site, across the top you'll see a link to how you can help or get involved. And right there, it'll take you to our, how you become a tutor, and we train every month at different times during the month to make it most convenient. Training is pretty easy, 4 hours, one time. But also on our website at the top right, when you go to adultliteracyleague.org, you'll see a donate button. You can use that, or you can go to our GoFundMe, which you can also link to on our Facebook page, which is All For Literacy, all four, and it's the number 4, or GoFundMe.com/support ALL, which is Adult Literacy League.
I mentioned the 60,000 in 60 days. What's the, when did that begin and when does it end?
So it began at the end of June, so the 1st of July, and so we're going through the end of August.
Okay.
And we're trending, which means that there's been lots of activity, but it's difficult to keep the momentum going. And so spread the word. And even if you can't donate, share our page like our page on Facebook. And the more traffic we get, the more people know about us and know about the amazing work that we do. It's truly been the honor of my life to be involved with the organization. And, it's a crazy time politically for us as a country, but what's so heartening, and I don't think that anybody could be offended by what's happening within our 4 walls here at the League. We're teaching people to read and write and speak English and to be a part of the community and to be engaged in their children's lives. And it's, you see people coming from 80 different countries speaking, 25 different languages, and they all have the same goals, and they're doctors and lawyers and dentists and farmers from all over, people from just all walks of life. It's just really incredible, the people that we serve, and they're so dedicated and interested in making their lives better. And for that reason, we have to we need the community support to help us continue to provide them what they need and what is going to make them successful.
Why don't you tell us one of the stories? You mentioned that we can go on your website and watch some of those videos that your students have put together, but tell us about one.
Yeah, well, you read the article in the Sentinel, and I talked a little bit about Brittany, and she is a young woman who was born and raised right here in Orlando, right off Orange Blossom Trail, and she's in her now late 20s. She came to us when she was 24, and she had spent her life raising younger siblings and family members and was supposed to be homeschooled, and it never happened. And honestly, she just didn't have anyone advocating for her or making her go to school. So she found herself living in a motel with her family and wanting more and dreaming of more. And when she came to us, someone from her church brought her, and she said that her goal was to just be a normal girl who could pick up a book and read. Like if she was at the doctor's office, she wanted to be able to pick up a book while she was waiting and read. And so fast forward 4 years, she's reading novels voraciously. Since coming to us, she got her first ever job, and now she's got two. And the application that she did for her, she just got a full-time job with, I don't think she'll be ashamed or embarrassed for me to share that it's with Orlando Health, and she has benefits, and she has her own apartment, and she has a car, and she has a washer and dryer, and she has aspirations to get her GED. She works so hard. Before she was able to get her driver's license, she took 2 buses to get to our office, and she was here even though she was working day and night. She carved out time to work really hard, and so we're just always really super proud of the progress she's made. She's still a ways away from being able to get her GED. Imagine, it took us 13 years of school to graduate from high school, so she's not going to do it in a year or two. It's going to take her time. But the other day, online contribution, when it comes in, a donation comes in through our website, I get an email notification, and I was at home. It was around 8:00 in the evening, and I got the ding, and I opened it, and Brittany had made a pretty large donation online. So she went from never even touching a computer or being able to navigate Orlando Health's job application system, which isn't easy, by the way, and then making a super generous donation to our cause. And it was just really a touching evening, and the next day for all of us. Brittany's just one of many, many really incredible people we work with every day.
Wow, that is a tremendous story. And I think it also speaks to, it isn't easy, and that the people who are coming to you, you mentioned earlier, 1,500 a week, that takes, I think, real sort of courage and dedication, because going into it, it must be so intimidating. You must think, oh, this is going to be so hard. But they've taken that first step and gotten in the door and are working diligently, making that progress like Brittany.
Yep, absolutely. She's so funny. She said, I had seen Learn to Read Free on a bus bench about 4 times, and she was able to pick out, read and free, and she had some pretty good sight word knowledge under her belt. And she said she picked up the phone so many times to call and was embarrassed, and there's so much stigma and shame around, especially adult basic literacy, and you come from another country, we can kind of people understand if you haven't been exposed to the language, it's going to take some time to learn it, but there's just so much shame and stigma around not knowing how to read or write. What did you do or what didn't you do, and what was wrong with you? And so combating that, it takes tremendous courage. And she said it wasn't until someone from her church said, fine, I am going to go with you. We're going to go together, and I know this is the right thing to do. And she never looked back once she came in. She's worked really hard since coming.
I always think it's impressive for someone who doesn't have really strong literacy skills and how really clever they are, right? Mm-hmm. To come up with ways to manage certain things.
Yeah, absolutely. I can remember being at my doctor's office, and a man went up to the counter with his clipboard of paperwork, and he was a real charmer and really kind of smooth. And he said to the woman working at the counter, I can't find my glasses. I thought they were in my truck, and they're not here. I can't see a thing. Can you help me with this form? And he was smiling and so, like I said, so charming. And the woman behind the counter, absolutely helped him fill out the form. And I knew as soon as I saw him and heard his story that's the story that so many of the students that we serve use. They're used to hiding this and figuring out fixes and ways around, or have little cards with their name and address in their wallet so that they can just copy it when they need to. And definitely it takes a tremendous amount of strength and courage and smarts to be able to navigate this world without literacy skills.
Let's talk about your volunteers now. And as you said earlier, one of the expenses, if you will, is that you need people to be able to train the volunteers. And I think the flip side of that, it's reassuring for the volunteers that you are going to have such support. Talk a little bit about the training and answer those questions I'm sure people ask you about. Am I right for this? Could I volunteer?
That's what we always say. Can you read? Can you write? Are you willing to work one-on-one with somebody? And if yes, then you're good. We provide a 4-hour in-person training. There's a little orientation online that takes just a few minutes to kind of scroll through the PowerPoint that's there. But the 4-hour in-person training is really more than teaching the volunteers how to teach. It's going to be introducing them to who our students are and who they might come in contact with, and introducing them to the kinds of materials that we use. There are really great materials that are designed just for programs like ours, for volunteer-based organizations, for tutors who are not professional educators. So the materials are super well scripted, and if you prepare just 15 minutes before you meet your student for the first time, you're going to be ready for what's ahead. And really, the most important, your willingness to give of yourself, because it really is relationship building. You're going to be matched with someone one-on-one, somebody who may be very different from you, somebody who may be, comes from a different country, a different culture, or even who comes from the same country as you, but a really different background or culture, and just the willingness to learn about that person. Because really, once you get into your groove and you guys once the tutor and student get to know each other, then the student's going to be the guide. And I need help navigating this job application system. And so you may spend 30 minutes going over short A vowel sounds in your book, but what really is going to help your student this week is helping her be able to, complete her child's vaccination form for school, or the school schedule or something. So in many cases, in all cases, I should say, the students are the driver for what happens, in the tutoring sessions. And then hopefully what we've provided is support to let you know the kinds of issues and needs that the students are going to have, and how we can help the volunteers meet those needs. And in addition to our staff, we have a committee. We call it our Tutor Support Committee. So it's a committee of around 10 or so really seasoned tutors who have tutored all different kinds of students and who have experience using all the different materials we use, and they're just a phone call or email away. They're always willing to mentor, and if you're struggling with something and maybe the materials that we think are going to be great for this student, maybe once you guys get together and you start looking at them and working with them, it's not clicking for you, then we can reevaluate. And this group of volunteers also is like a second line of defense, or a second group to provide support to the volunteers as well, and to let them know also, most importantly probably, is that you can't break the student. So everything's a lesson and everything is valuable, even if you have a plan to cover something and then your plan takes a right turn, and it's still valuable for the student. Even just sharing with the students that there's someone who cares about this and wants them to succeed and wants them to be able to earn a family sustaining wage by improving their skills in this way.
What's an example of something a volunteer may find a challenge with?
Yeah, well, I had one this week that was really interesting. So she's a new tutor, and she's not an educator, which is completely okay. Most of our tutors aren't. Her student has the goal of one day obtaining her GED. The student, however, is probably reading it around a second grade level. So we know she's quite a ways away from achieving that goal. Not to say that that's not something that we work towards, but they're baby steps that have to happen on the front end. So the tutor was kind of on her own researching what some of the students' challenges, does she have a learning disability or a learning difference, and is what I'm doing going to help her if she does have some sort of learning disability. I'm not a professional educator. I'm not, and we need to make sure that she gets the accommodation she needs. And so I was really glad, because a lot of times that can be overwhelming, because the fact is the majority of our adult basic education students probably do have some sort of learning disability or learning difference that was never diagnosed, or maybe it was diagnosed but wasn't accommodated, or it was many, many years ago and education system was different. But we know from practice and best practices and the professional development that we get that the best remediator and the best accommodation is one-to-one, and just working with the student and being flexible and creative, and maybe it's doing practical things and getting up and walking around and not sitting in front of a book, but standing up and using a whiteboard. But so I was able to intervene before the tutor really went too far down a rabbit hole, worrying about what could be the problem or the disability, trying to make sure that she knew that it wasn't her job to diagnose her or to try to find a scientific explanation, but rather to just see, to just be patient and work through the first little baby steps one-on-one in a quiet, non-stressful, the classroom was probably painful for her student as a young person. And so not recreating that whole school atmosphere, but really bringing learning to a different place and a different environment. And one of our tutor support committee members has a background in learning differences and learning disabilities, and she's always willing to talk to new volunteers and kind of talk them off the ledge. And it's just, we have so many different volunteers with so many different areas of expertise, but just all of them have tremendous heart and willingness to help. You're never alone in it.
I want you to go ahead and let people know again about your GoFundMe campaign.
So we are running our GoFundMe that we talked about. It's our hope is, and our what we're striving for is $60,000 in 60 days. So working really hard through the end of August. You can access that campaign by either visiting our Facebook page, which is on Facebook, we're the Adult Literacy League, at all, ALL, the number 4 literacy, all 4 literacy. Or you can go to GoFundMe directly, gofundme.com/support ALL. Or if it's easier, which we completely understand, or less to remember, you can go to our website, which is adultliteracyleague.org. And at the top right of the page, you'll see a big red donate button. That'll take you right in where you need to go.
All right. Very good. Thank you so much for talking to me today. Gina Burko-Solomon is Executive Director of the Adult Literacy League. I'm Beth Perrell.